Hi everyone, welcome to part 2 of the bulrush, the honesty, and the grasses, the two types of grasses. So first we're going to finish off the bulrush, then the honesty, and then go on to the grasses. And then once we finish that, I'm going to show you the grand assembly of everything that we have made. So let's get started. So for the bulrush is dry. We're now going to move on to the next step, which says add 2 additional 18 gauge full length wires, taping down with full width light green tape, then up and then down again. Now when we do this, because we're adding, obviously these are a little thinner than this, the bulrush, you want to have this as the front, so either the end of it is curling to the right or to the left, it doesn't matter. All right, and what I will do is I will position the wires behind basically behind the bamboo skewer. All right, and they're just going to slide up. So you see that sort of, because it means that this is going to be the sort of the front of the stem. Okay, this part will obviously have a little step down, but we won't see that. We're only going to see the top of it. Now we're going to take full width floral tape and just stretch your floral tape. And then you're just going to start that. So when you first start it, just obviously put that in, and then before you actually physically start taping down. So you see the bamboo skewer is up, that's on the top, and then the wires are behind it. The 2 wires are sitting behind it. All right, and then just gonna go around with your floral tape, come up to the brown, and then just make sure that everything's okay. All right, and then we're gonna just tape down. So you're gonna tape down to the bottom of the wires, and then we're just gonna tape up. So this, about nearly 1/3 of this is going to be just 2 wires. Because we're going to arrange this as a sort of a wired spray, you're not going to see that bottom part there. And then you're just going to come up to the top. Just remember, stretch your tape as you go. Make sure that you just bring that just to the bottom of the brown and then down again. And you're just going to tape down to the bottom, break off your tape. All right, so that's going to give us a stem. Okay, put that in your styrofoam block. Be careful of your weight distribution. Now next thing we're going to do is we're going to take some brown gel color. In air drying clay, this would be brown acrylic paint. All right, and so what we're going to do is just going to use some brown gel color. I'm just going to use this actually straight. I'm not adding any vodka to this. I'm going to use, you can use, for example, this is a brush like a stenciling brush, a stippling brush, but I'm going to use my toothbrush. This is the same technique I used on when we did the poppy. So just gonna put some on a napkin. And here, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sort of like spackle this onto the brown bamboo skewer. It's not going to be a solid color, it's just going to be, this will be done with acrylic paint, okay? So you just get a sort of stippled effect on there, all right, because they have this sort of two-tone effect. Now, you'll need to have, for sugar, we need to have some semolina, all right? So this, remember, is semolina. So semolina is used in baking and things. Italian pizzas are baked on this. And semolina, so you can take this. You'll need approximately about 3 teaspoons. It's a little more than I need, but about 3 teaspoons, about a tablespoon of the semolina. And you can just put it into a bag or into a container with a lid. And what I've done is I've added some chocolate brown dust, and then you can use a little bit of like a golden yellow, a little bit of orange to that, just like when we made when we would make paste that color, and it will make it like almost a chestnut color. And you can also buy pre-colored pollen and semolina as well, all right? But you just want, as I said, if you're coloring this yourself, you want to use some brown, and a little bit of like Harrison's yellow, a little bit of orange. So it just becomes a little bit of almost a chestnut color, all right? Slightly orangey, like almost like a gingerbread man, like a gingerbread cookie or gingerbread house color, all right? So like gingerbread color. And you have that ready. And then what we're gonna do is gonna use a brush, all right? Now, the idea is we're going to be, I want a dish or a container I can sprinkle into. You need to work fairly quickly on this. I'm going to paint this over with brown. So you're just going to put brown all over this. Now remember, this is just straight out of the pot. Now, when you're doing this on air drying clay, you would do this with brown acrylic. All right, so you just would paint this over with brown acrylic. And there's going to be a slight difference between air drying clay and sugar. So just going to make sure that you get that sort of evenly put all over there. All right, and then what we're going to do is we're going to sprinkle this quite liberally with the brown semolina. All right, so you need to do this fairly quickly. As I said, if you've got about a tablespoon, there's more than that in here. So what you can do is you can just use a little spoon or a spatula, and then just sort of shake that so that gets rid of your excess. So you see that will give you the sort of the effect of the sort of the fuzziness that we get on the bulrush. All right, I'm just going to clean this part up. So then you put that back into your bag, and if you do that onto a piece of parchment paper, you can put that back in. Now you can also put the dust in a shaker as well, but I put this on a little bit more liberally than I would use sometimes when I've done other things like this. When I do the poppy stems, I use green pollen and I put in a little shaker. All right, but anyway, so that gives you this part here. Now, what we then do is we're going to brush the top part with glaze and dip into natural semolina. So then I have some natural semolina here. And that's what I'm going to use for the top of this. So I'm going to use, just again, protect your work surface. I have a little bit of confectioner's glaze. So this is with a sugar one. And I'm going to brush this. I'm going to paint this on the top of here. All right, so it's going to be brushed onto the brown. Just let that, by the time you finish that, dry. And you're going to just brush that on the top of this. So you have that two-tone. And then we're going to put that into the natural semolina. And that will give that sort of very realistic look on the top of it, because it has a sort of browny cream color on the top. So you're just going to just make sure you get that all where the glaze is, but just put your glaze onto there. You can just put a little bit of the pollen onto there. All right, so that sort of gives you the top of the bulrush like I showed you in the photograph. And that's pretty much, if you get a little bit too much off, you can just let that dry a little bit. But that's how you would do the sugar one. All right, so you get that nice coloring on the top. And that's pretty much finished, all right? So it's actually quite simple to finish off. Now for air drying clay, a slight difference is, with air drying clays, it's all in your directions. So you're going to paint over, so with your sausage, obviously you paint over with the brown acrylic paint. Then you're going to stipple on the tip, then you let that dry. And then what you would do is you just would use your PVA glue. So rather than painting over with the brown and then putting the semolina straight away, you let the brown acrylic paint dry. Then what you're going to do is you're going to then take your PVA glue, paint over the top with PVA glue, and then you can either use sand, all right? Now, especially if you're wanting to put it in somewhere like a bathroom or whatever. You can do it the same as I did the sugar. You can just paint it with gel, but you can obviously do that with sand. And when you use sand, you can obviously buy sand in, for example, in little containers like this. So you can get this, you can buy this online. So you can buy sand. Also in a lot of dollar stores and pound stores, you can buy sand like this. So what you could do is just put some of that in a container, about a tablespoon, and again, use some brown and a little bit of orange or a yellowy color. And you can of course use pigment powders for that as well. And then you would brush over the painted brown acrylic paint, and then you will then sprinkle it with this because obviously this sand will not dissolve in moisture. So if you had, say, the bulrushes in your bathroom or whatever, it's not going to dissolve. All right, and then on the tip of it, you can actually use the Polar White. Now this is a Katy Sue product, which looks sort of like almost like snow. So what you can actually do is you could put the on the brown tip we have here. So if this was a craft project, you then would paint that over with your PVA glue, all right? And then you would then dip it into the brown, and we've used this technique before, and that's sort of like the effect it will give, all right? Because this is obviously not an edible product, but as I said, we use that, so it gives it that fuzzy look on there, all right? So that's the basic difference. You know, sometimes when we do things in, obviously, air drying clay, we're not really doing anything different to them, but in this case, you would, all right? This could be put in a container as well. And that is Flower Soft Polar White. I use that for calla lilies and things when I teach air drying clay. So that is the basic difference. But you can buy orange sand and brown sand, and you can mix that yourself, but you can also use pigments to do that. And then that's going to then dry. Next, we're going to move on to the Honesty. For the Honesty, in your instructions, it tells you to use some 1/4 width brown floral tape and take the base of each of the pieces once they're dry. So what you're going to do is going to start, because you can't slide this up, start as close as you can to the top, and then just tape down to the bottom. All right, so you do this before you paint, and these ones I've done the painting already, but if you do the brown first, then we're going to put the brown on top. All right, now first thing you're going to do is for sugar, we're going to use some this is a pearlescent paint, a food paint, all right? So many companies do this, Rainbow Dust, but there are also many other food coloring companies that offer a pearlized paint, all right? You can even use a pearlized airbrush color, which is a little bit more watered down. Now this product is quite thick, so I usually prefer to add a little bit of water or vodka to this, and this I'm gonna do with vodka because it's gonna make it just dry a little bit quicker. So we're just gonna put a little bit, pour out a little bit of this. There we go. It's quite a thick paint, so I want to water that down a little bit. And obviously vodka is going to dry quicker than water, but water will work as well. So just going to water that down a little bit. Now for, if this was air drying clay, this would be pearlized acrylic paint. So you can buy pearlized acrylic paint. Again, it's quite thick, so you can just add some water to that. And so you're going to just water that down. And then generally we'll just work on a piece of wax paper or parchment paper like this. I just put this down, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a fairly wide brush, and I'm just going to do a quick one direction, and you see it's going to give it this sort of pearlescent look. And then when you do the second half, you need to just sort of like hold it in the air to do that, because if you put it down it will stick. All right, and then you paint the other side. Be careful of your little spike on there. You see how you got this sort of this nice effect. And this is better than using dust because you get more of a pearlized effect here, more of that shine that it has in real life, all right? Now, you're going to put those into your styrofoam block, then you paint the second one, the third one, the fourth one, the fifth one, and if you line them up so you know which one is being done first. But as I said, acrylic paint and pearlized paint, acrylic pearl, or if you don't have acrylic pearl, you can use white pearl and just put pearl dust into that, and it will make it pearlescent, all right? Now, once they need to dry, obviously, for about 10-15 minutes, what we're then going to do is we're going to do the next stage. Now, for the next stage, we're going to use, so I've already obviously painted some of these. So what we're going to do is next step, we're going to use some brown and black dusting powder, all right? It's going to be about, in instructions here, so then you're going to use about 3 to 1 of brown, so 3 parts brown and about 1 part black, all right? So you're just going to take a little bit of brown, and then you're going to add some just a little bit of black to that. All right, it just gives it a little bit of a darker color. So just approximately about 3 parts of brown to 1 part white. And then we're gonna take, again, vodka here. Just mix that up. You don't need very much of this, sort of a little tiny bit goes a long way. And sort of see how you are as far as the colors go, because you know, if you make it a bit dark, then you can just add a little bit of liquid to this, a little bit of alcohol to this. All right, so once this is dry, what I would probably do is just you know, just try the color. Look sort of it's not too dark, and it says they're quite watery. So what we're going to do now is going to use a brush here. Now I'm using the side of the piece here with my brush. You see what I'm doing is I'm painting down, so I'm using the side of the brush. So you don't have to sort of like try and paint the outline. All you're doing is you're just using your brush, and you see that will put the sort of the brown color on the edge. All right, so you literally just, as I said, just paint down here. And you do the same on the other side. Now obviously this is the one I just have done, so you just want to make sure that the pearlized paint is dry first. But you're just going to get that paint on there, all right? And then you're going to paint the little tip. That's going to be brown as well, and just touch. So then you can go at a slight angle, all right? So almost like you do it like that to start, you can go at a slight angle if you have any areas where, and if there's any little bit of overcut, don't worry about that because it looks sort of very natural, all right? But just going to paint the little brown spike, both sides there. Okay, you can just blend that in. And we're also going to paint directly underneath there. So that will mean that the sort of where the brown tape meets, that will all just be the same color. And then you're going to, using the brush, you're going to paint some fine lines. So you just do some lines radiating from the outside, 5 or 6 lines coming out like this. And these are the little nail brushes. They're very inexpensive. You use your pack of 10 for a few pounds or dollars on Amazon. And they're nail art brushes, but they're really fine. They're not real good quality, but for what we're doing here, they're perfect. And because you get a nice, obviously really fine line on it for nail art, you need a very small brush. And you're just going to paint around the edge of them. But as I said, when you paint them with the pearlized paint, put them into the styrofoam block in order so that you know which ones have been done first. And remember, just make sure that you can let them dry a little bit, and then you have little areas you need to touch up. You need to make sure the front and back is pretty much the same on there. All right, and I've just got a little bit of brown to paint on that one. All right. And those are going to dry for a few minutes, and when I come back, I'm going to show you the next step, which is going to be the assembly. So in your instructions, it says assemble onto the top of one of the 22 gauge wires using half-width brown tape. Now in your checklist, you've got 3 22 gauge wire, full length wires. So what you're going to do is you're going to place the wire here about an inch, about 225 millimeters from the end. All right, what we're going to do is just going to start with your floral tape. So we're starting with half-width brown tape, and we're just going to tape down just a little ways. You can get that a little bit of shape, and then you will take your second one. Now have a look at your pieces, and if you obviously have messed up with your painting on one side, then you can just use the other side as the front, and then all we're going to do is just stagger these. So this will be the second one. So you just stagger them, remember, just working from your photograph, your image. You'll have this will be the third one. See, but you almost have this sort of mirror finish, which is, they really sort of catch the sun and things, and you're just going to tape down. So, okay, so just tape about halfway down the wire. And you can just give that. So you see this will be the sort of the main branch. Then you're going to then do a sub branch, and then on another 22 gauge wire, you do exactly the same. You're going to tape down, and then you're going to put the last one on. And then what I'm going to do is just put them so they sort of sit into space like this. So it'll be almost like a sub branch, all right? And then at that point where the sub branch means the main branch, you're then going to add the third 22 gauge wire and just tape down. Now the stems on the Veneria are not really thick, so we're not going to go up and down like we've done on other projects, all right? Just make sure you do tape over that, but just use half width tape. So you're using quarter width tape to do the initial taping of the honesty, and then you're going to use half width to assemble this. And then you're just going to tape down. I'm going to come right the way down to the bottom of the last wire. Now this is quite important because in the last part of this lesson, I'm going to show you how we put together. So what I'll be doing, I'll tell you how much we need to cut off each of the wires, because when we put them in, we will be cutting off each of the wires for assembly. So I will tell you like whether you cut off 60 millimeters or 100 millimeters or whatever, that's the way we'll put it together. So you just tape down, see, because that's the first wire, that's the second wire, and that's the third wire. So that's why when it says full length wires, most of these things in the last couple of parts of this have been done on the longer wires. So the Chinese lantern and the obviously cosmos, and then moving on to the berries and the rose hips and everything was on full length wires. All right, remember these are long wires, so you can just bend those. But here you have your honesty ready to go into the arrangement. And if you do have any areas of brown, of the brown floral tape, like you get pearl dust. That one I did last was a little bit wet. So the thing is if you needed to, you could just touch a little bit of brown on there. But just if you get the pearl dust on, usually it just comes off with a wet finger. But just let the pearlized paint dry before you go on to the next part. And that will be your honesty. This doesn't have to be steamed because obviously we've painted this, all right? So it's all basically been painted. So that will be the honesty ready for assembly. So we're going to do the quaking grass now. Now in your checklist, you've got 4 third length 26 gauge white wires. Remember, we've got 12 of the quaking grasses. All right, so what we're going to do in your instructions, it says tape 1 quaking grass onto the end of a third length 26 gauge wire using quarter width white floral tape. Then add 2, the second and the third staggered and tape down to the end of the wire. Repeat with the other 3 wires. All right, so this is basically the front of remember this is the side that we snipped with the scissors. The flat side is the back, but the more rounded side is the front, all right? So what we're gonna do is gonna take so pretty much I'm gonna put that almost like sort of towards the end. The 26 gauge wire is just towards the end, so you have enough to hold on to. You're just gonna tape down, and then you're gonna put in the second one. So you just sort of stagger those. The grasses, it's not so important positions and obviously depth and how far you take down and whatever as some other projects. So here you're just going to just stagger those, but you see how they're just going to be staggered like this, all right? And this will be and then just tape down to the bottom of the wire, because this is going to be done with dust-in powder, all right? So we want to make sure you do cover that, and I'll show you the last one. So remember the flat part, that's the back, this is really the front. So it'll do all the fronts towards you. And just tape down just a little way. This will be the second one and the third one. There we go. And then this will be the third one. Just really where you have the finer cuts with the scissors that we're going to, that will be all the front part. Now with both the grasses, we're going to do them similar in that we're going to dust these with your, so we're going to dust them, and then what we're going to do is going to put them together. This is you can just move them around if you need to. So obviously the flat part is the back, you see flat, flat, and this will give you your 3. All right, so you have 4 of those, and 2 of these have already been dusted. All right, so what we're going to do, I'll show you the dusting on this. So we take a napkin. All right, now I'm going to use cappuccino, which is a color we used on the poppy. All right, so this is sort of a creamy color. Need a fairly decent amount of that. And I'm going to take the cappuccino, and I'm just going to dust this sort of all over and about halfway down the wire, the exposed part of the wire there. So just dust that all over. All right, and you're going to do that also on the back as well. But this is easier to do before you assemble it, because you can actually almost like rub onto the napkin. I'm just going to come down about halfway down. So that gives it that sort of neutral, creamy color over everything. You see in the brush, you're just brushing over the floral tape. Okay, and then obviously if you have any left, I don't really have any left, but you can put that back into the container. And then we're going to take a little bit of prairie green. So the prairie green is just a soft green that we've used before. Remember, the samples of the colors will be in your download. So all we're going to do is just, the prairie green is just going to go just a little tiny bit, just at the top where the wire meets the quaking grass, both front and back. You just do a touch of that. Now we'll just go just a little tiny bit of green, just very, very subtle, okay? It's very, very subtle green on there. So just a little bit of green, little bit of green. Remember, I've got 2 of these already done, all right? So that's going to be your green. And then you will have some pale chocolate. So then I take chocolate. So obviously this is chocolate mixed with corn flour. All right, so just pale chocolate. Again, we've used this on some of the projects on this autumn project. All right, and then just gonna brush just down. So I'm using a fairly large flat brush. I'm gonna do this both sides here. So just gonna brush. And then we're just gonna do the dusting on those. So those will be the 4 pieces dusted, right? So now we're gonna move on to the assembly. So for the assembly of the quaking grass, it says in your directions, add 1 group to the top of a 20 gauge white wire, then add the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th in a spiral using half-width white tape. All right, so basically you've got 4 identical pieces there. So you're just gonna put 1 of them on the top of the wire. So we just add and I'm using half-width, going to half-width white tape. Just gonna tape it down just a little bit. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna sort of really work in a sort of a spiral. The next one would go here. Just come down just a little way. And the 3rd one. So you're doing like so you sort of do 1 and then you're gonna come around and then we're gonna do another one here. And then you do the 4th one. All right. So it's almost like a top of a tree. Then you're gonna come down. You wanna come all the way down to the bottom here. Again, this is on a full length wire, you know, just for the type of arrangement we're doing. And then here, what I'm going to do is just sort of have these almost like sort of branches, so they're going to come out. So you see how they're just going to curve. Now it doesn't matter really where they, as far as they sit, you know, whether you have the front or the back towards you. It's just that when I dust them, I found it was easier to do it with all the fronts forward. And that is the side that's got, so I've got it, these are all the fronts towards me here, so that so you can just sort of bend them here, because that's sort of the side that's got the more detail on there. So this is the sort of the quaking grass. All right. Now what we're going to do is going to do exactly the same as we did before. So we're then going to take this, and then with some cappuccino. All right. So we're going to use the cappuccino color. So we're going to go back to cappuccino. And it says in your directions, so dust over exposed white tape with cappuccino dust and a little pale chocolate. So you're just going to use the cappuccino dust here. So just going to, what that's going to do is going to give that sort of that white, that dusting powder. So, and you just need to come about halfway down, all right? But you don't need to come all the way down to the bottom, but just about halfway down the stem here. All right, and then we're going to use a little bit of pale chocolate. So I'm just going to put a little bit of pale chocolate just on the sort of the main part of the stem, you know, so it's almost like it just comes to the base of the sub branches, the pale chocolate, and just going to come down over that cappuccino. So your cappuccino is like your foundation, and then so you're going to get that just sort of color on there. So it's a very neutral looking. Of course, you could make this more green, and I showed you the one with the green and pink. So the thing is, learning this technique, like with many things we do in Flower Pro, you have lots of options there as far as being able to take this and then, of course, use this in different times of year, because you could do this in a pale green and you could do the pinky color on that. But I wanted this to look like dry, because we have our basically our poppy seed head, and we have the mousetail, the quaking grass, and the wild oats will be sort of almost look like dried leaves. And then we're going to just going to steam this. All right, so you're just going to steam that. So that is going to just give it a good steam. Remember, we don't use any lacquer on this because we want this to look like dried, and just going to give that a steam. Again, in air drying clay, that will just have a really good spray with hairspray. And that will be your, as I said, quaking grass. So in the checklist, you have 8 third length 26 gauge wires. So what we do is we put these in groups of 3, just exactly the same as the quaking grass. All right, so just group them in 3. And what you're going to do is same way as we put the quaking grass together. We're using 1/4 width tape here. All right, and I'm going to take the quaking grass. You're going to sort of put that again quite far down, so the end of the stamen is just covering over the top. Just start with your floral tape, just come down little ways, then you put in here, second one, and the third one. Now we will open these stamens up a little later when we get it finished. All right, so you're just going to tape down, again tape down to the bottom. So you're going to continue that. So I'm going to do the last one. So remember, there's just about 2 centimeters, about 3/4 of an inch on the end. The quaking grass and the oats are done in the same way. And then you're going to take your second one and the third one. Come down to the bottom. All right, so you put all 8 of them together like that. And then we're going to move on to the coloring. I've already got 6 colored here. So in your instruction, we're going back to the cappuccino color. So we're going to use the cappuccino. And of course, when you do this, you can assemble the quaking grass and the oats, and then you can do all the cappuccino on all of them, okay, at one time. So what we're going to do here, just going to brush that. So just brush that sort of over them. It doesn't have to be completely all over, it's just it's sort of almost like tonal, so just sort of brush it over the top. All right, so you just sort of come down about halfway down the stem here. And a little bit of green that we have in the paste, that sort of just gives it a little bit of life. All right, so those are going to be that part there. And then what we're going to do is going to take you can either use a little bit of brown gel color or brown dust, it doesn't matter here. And so going to use a little bit of brown powder and a little bit of, because this doesn't have the black in it, okay? And then what you're going to do is with your brush, you're just going to put like a little brown, like on each side of the little ear. So you just have like a little bit of, so just where you just almost the brush just rests in between the two ears. So just have a little bit of brown there. So just a little brown dot, okay? So if you think of it like your fingers, these are like your ears. You do a brown there and brown there on the other side. But you can hold those separately. So you're just going to do the brown. If you get a little bit too much on, you can just brush it off with your finger. And then just the other side. That's going to be that little sort of brown seed visible. All right. So we're going to do the, so all of those will be done in the same way. You see you get the little sort of like little brown parts there, like so. All right. So then once we've done that, we're going to move on to the assembly. So very much like when we assembled the Quaking Grass, we're going to start off with the 20 gauge, single 20 gauge wire. We're going to take one of the branches. I'm just going to go on the top. All right, and just tape that, changing out to half width tape, go down a little ways. All right, and then what we're going to do is again go around in a spiral. So we're going to put the first ones in a little shorter. So I'm going to put those in about where the sort of last little Wild Oats is, and then you can just sort of come out slightly with an angle, and then you're going to go around a little way, and you're going to, so literally just where that meets, a little further down. I'm going to come around. So you see it's almost like a tree. If you think of a tree branches, they're going to come out like this. And then once you've got like three, so three of we've got one in the center, then three. So then we have four left. So then these ones will come a little bit further down because they want to sort of almost like sort of open out a little bit. Just think of like almost an artificial Christmas tree, you've got that sort of, that effect where the branches will become a little bit longer. So, but all of the grasses, you get quite a lot of impact for your investment of time, and this really now fills in just like if you used dry grasses in an autumn arrangement, flowers or dried flowers or silk flowers, but you see how you almost get like a Christmas tree effect. All right, and then going to just come down there. So these, remember, you just do one single wire and just half width tape, and we don't come back and up again or down like we've done on some other projects. And also we're not going to texture this because grasses don't really have the texturing on them. All right, so that's sort of like you can see here the sort of the tree. So as I said, it looks just almost like a sort of a bare tree. All right, and then what we're going to do is going to then you're going to assembly tape as quaking grass, and then you're going to dust the exposed tape with white. So we're just going to take just use a cappuccino here. And again, going to come down about halfway down. So just with that cappuccino. It's a nice neutral color. Creamy color. Obviously gets its name from the froth on the top of the coffee. So you get that sort of when the coffee and the milk obviously combine together, you get that sort of creamy color. Just gonna give that, so it just sort of gets rid of that bright white effect there. All right, and then we're going to just open these up, and I'm going to make these a little bit organic, meaning a little bit more curved. So you see how I'm just now going to take the wire, the branches, and use my finger so that these will just sort of just come out. The top one will stay as it is. All right, and then using tweezers, what I'm going to do is I'm going to, with the tweezers, just sort of bend the stamen, and then I'm just going to curl with my thumbnail. So you see what will happen is the stamen will become like softer then, you see. So because it's got like a starch on it, so you just literally I run my fingernail down there. So you just run your fingernail down. You can do that with a scissor back as well, like you do paper and thing. But you see how then it gives you that sort of more organic look. All right, so they don't look like they've had sort of electric shock treatment. So you can just, as I said, you can just take the stamens. I prefer to do this sort of at this stage, but you're just going to, and you see they'll have that sort of more of that natural look. So they actually will curve, and you can take your tweezers there and just curve those. And so they will actually sort of just almost curl. You see how they're going to just sort of, so they'll actually sort of hang in a nice natural way. So I'm just going to finish that. When I come back, I'll show you it completed. So here you can see I've just sort of curved them just to give them that sort of soft organic look. And you just as I said, you can use your tweezers, and you can almost like bend the stamen at an angle and then just sort of curl that, because you want them to sort of like almost hang down like icicles, and you'll get that nice shape. So then once we've bent this to shape, and remember, if you need to go in with obviously any more cappuccino, because naturally the moisture in your fingers will take the oils, will take the dust off, and just so it doesn't look too white looking. And then we're going to, as I said, just give this a good steam, or spray this with hairspray. And that will just, as I said, help to set the powder. And here is our wild oats. So here you can see obviously the bulrush, the cat's tail, obviously the honesty, then we have the quaking grass, and we have the wild oats. So that is the completion of the components which are going to go into our arrangement. So when I come back, we're going to start putting this all together. So for the final assembly, I'm going to use this milk pitcher, all right? So, or obviously, you know, like you can use sort of a tall vase or things like that. Something like this vase, you could just fill it with rice or lentils or beans, because it's quite heavy and dense. What I've done is I'm going to use some old scraps of styrofoam. You know, this is pieces I've used for flour making that have got a lot of holes in it, so I just keep those. You can also use a part of a cake dummy as well. As I said, just cut that in pieces so you can sort of trim it so it fits in. And then down the side, you're going to just use like small pieces. So start at the bottom and then put in a square, and then put some small like little shams, so the styrofoam around the edge, and you can push it in with like a wooden handle of a rolling pin or a stick like this, just to sort of try and fill it up. So it sort of it's fairly dense. You don't have to use any glue or anything. And then, you know, you get to the top. So obviously you can put the sort of pieces in, and then as you go, sort of once you fill the first layer, you can use some lentils or rice, And you can just sort of use those so that will sort of fill in the gaps, all right? So you can sort of fill in the gaps. And just got a little bit more to go in here. But you can put that in and it will make quite a sort of a snug fit, all right? And then what we do is when we've actually got the flowers in, we'll fill in with more lentils. So you need to make sure directly in the middle, you have just an area. So just going to use sort of in the middle there, just use like a rolling pin handle. This is a medium pin. So this is going to be for the main sort of handle, all right? Lentils are going down there now. But anyway, so that will be for a little later on. And now when you're working on the spray, there are two ways to do this. You can actually working from your final assembly because some of the wires are going to be cut. So you can either take the sort of first components, then obviously when you have to cut a wire, take it, cut it, tape it in. But you'll probably find it's easier to do this all the cutting first, all right? So in your final assembly, so it has number 1 Bulrush. So obviously that's not cut down because it doesn't have any sizes. Wild Oats will go to the left. And then we're going to cut 5 centimeters off the Quaking Grass, and that will go to the right. Now, when you remember, all the wires are longer. So all you're going to do is just straighten out your wire here like this, all right? And then you're just going to cut off 5 centimeters from the end there. So what that will mean that when we put them together, the ends of the wires will all go together, all right? So that's that will be number 3. Now then number 4, the dried poppy seed head, that obviously doesn't have any size, so that's as is. And then you're going to cut off 4 centimeters from the burgundy berry. So this is the burgundy berry. So 4 centimeters, just straighten out the wire. It doesn't have to be perfect, but just going to cut off about 4 centimeters off there. And this is going to go, this one will go to the left, all right? So that's going to go to the left. So you're going to obviously, so this curves away from you here. All right, so that will go to the left. And then just be careful because they got long stems and some of them are a little bit top heavy. Then we're going to cut off 4 centimeters, which I've already done. So 4 centimeters from the orange berry, and that will go to the right, all right? So these are going to sort of basically curl over to the right, all right, the arrangement. So those are ready to go. Then you have 12 centimeters off the honesty. All right, so what we're going to do is going to cut 12 centimeters approximately off of that. I'm just doing this all in centimeters because it's easier. So 12 centimeters off of the honesty, okay? And then working down, then we've got 6 centimeters off the Chinese lantern. So Chinese lantern, I've cut 6 centimeters off of that, okay? And you've got this as a download, so it'd be easy for you to do. And then 15 centimeters off the cosmos. All right, so 15 centimeters approximately off the cosmos. There we go. So that's going to be off the cosmos. Then the dahlia will go be as it is, all right, from the class, because that's going to be the center point, and 12 centimeters off the rose hip. Okay, so then we've got 12 centimeters approximately off the rose hip. Okay, so that's your rose hip. And then you have the last thing that's going to not be cut but be bent will be the here the buckeye, the horse chestnut. So that is just going to be bent, bend the horse chestnut 9 centimeters down the wire. All right, so approximately 9 centimeters down the wire there. You're going to just bend that. So the easiest way to do that is to hold the wire and just push the wire down with your hand. This is on a very strong wire. All right, and then that's going to sort of bend because it's going to come out of the picture like that, sort of coming out to the right, okay? But anyway, once you get, there's obviously going to be the finished photograph so you can see which way things are bent. And, but just be very careful with your weight distribution on your styrofoam block. I've got sort of multiple blocks here so that everything is going to be nice and stable on there, okay? So that's the first part. So that means we've got everything bent. We've got everything cut that needs to be cut. Now when we assemble, we're going to do this with full width tape. And it's, if you have, you know, you can use the actual container, but if you have, even it doesn't have to be anything like a water bottle, a plastic bottle filled with rice, because if you have to just put this down, it's better to put it into something than lay it down, all right? You know, pretty much my piece has been done air drying clay. I've got the dahlia. Everything else is actually flexi paste, but some of you might have a combination of air drying clay, flexi paste, and traditional gum paste. But just remember, you know, things that are a little fragile would be in regular gum paste, things like the cosmos, obviously the rose hip calyxes and things. So now we're going to come back, we're going to use full width tape. Now we're going to do this like a hand-tied spray. Like if you go to Europe, places like, let's say the Netherlands, Holland, you know, Amsterdam area, a lot of Europe, in France, in Paris, you do what we call hand-tied, all right, which basically that's sort of where that sort of trend started. And it is that you take your flowers rather than traditional wiring technique. Basically, you're just going around with string, or wire, so that actually sort of it just is a hand tied, and you add components, and we've done this technique with some of the things. So this is a little bit more informal. Now, when you are doing an arrangement, this is approximately 8 inches tall, the vase, the container. So normally you would have the tallest point would be about has to be at least 1.5 times the height of that, which means that you would be usually about 12 inches above the container would be your sort of your height. But there are differences in different styles of arrangement, but generally a sort of rule of thumb is your arrangement will be about 1.5 times the height of the container. You know, so if you have a 4-inch sort of container onto a cake, then you're usually going to come up about 6 inches at your tallest point, all right? But as I said, obviously I worked this all out for you, so they won't have any issues. So anyway, we have your, here you've got your bulrush, all right? So then the bulrush is going to be center. The wild oats are going to go to the left, all right? So what you have to be careful of is here when you're pulling things out of the styrofoam block, make sure you hold also on things like the oats and the grasses there, that they don't get in each other's way. All right, so that wire is going right at the bottom there. All right, and about sort of where you see where the bulrush, where we added the wire. Now remember, this would change a little bit if you've used a longer or shorter kebab skewer, but approximately about halfway down the length of the green part of the bulrush. We're going to start with your floral tape, and I'm just going to go around a couple of times. And I'm going to have that, so this is going to be coming to, don't worry too much about position, but that is so the bulrush is in the middle, and this is going to the to the left-hand side, okay? So the wild oats are to the left. We've already cut off 5 centimeters for the quaking grass, and that's going to go to the right. All right, so those are sitting sort of behind here. So all you do is you just position all of your wires, because we've cut them, you know, I calculated how long we needed to cut off of those. So this makes it a little bit easier for you to, and this is going to go to the right hand side. But as I said, you don't need to worry too much about exact position, because we're going to, so if you look in camera there, you see your bulrushes in the middle, and then you have your, obviously wild oats to the left, and then you have your, obviously, quaking grass to the right, all right? So they're sort of going behind the piece to sort of get that integration of the pieces, all right? Now, once we've done that, so we're going to then dried poppy seeds slightly right of center. So the poppy seed head, now these parts here can be laid down, all right? Just be a little bit careful of your pollen, all right? So the poppy seed head is going to go in. So again, it's going to go, all the wires are going to be level at the bottom, okay? So the poppy seed head is going to go into here, and then going to go around. So that's going to go to the right of the center, slightly to the right, and you can just give that a little bit of sort of shape, all right? So you see how the poppy seed head is there, all right? So you can go, that's going to go into there, but this is, we're going to think of this as center, so it's just slightly to the right of that. Then we're going to go, once we've done that, cut off 4 centimeters, which we've done already from the burgundy berry. That is going to go to the left. All right, so the burgundy berry, so that will gain, that's going to go to the left-hand side here. So that will go to the left. So remember, everything is going to be level at the bottom here. But this would be like what we call a hand tied. So if you were doing this with wire or sisal string, it just means it has sort of a nice natural organic feel to it, all right? And remember, as I said, you know, you can bend this, but it wants to have like a nice natural shape to it. And then we're going to be doing then the orange berry is going to go to the right. All right, so the orange berry, again, level there is going to go to the right. All right, and I'm going to tape those together here. You can see that they're sort of sitting to the right and to the left. All right. Now this I'm going to take an image of, so I'll be right back. So we're going to have obviously several images here, so you can follow this step by step. And so that's the first stage. All right. So we've got through. Now we're on stage number 6. All right. So we've got 6 components in there. We've got our bulrush to the center, and then we've got our wild oats, our quaking grass. We have our poppy seed head. We have our berries to the right and to the left. So then we've cut off 12 centimeters from the honesty. This is going to go back behind the bulrush. So this is going to go, so basically this level. So remember, all the wires want to be the same level. All right. And that is just going to sit sort of at the back here. So you see how it's just going to go behind the bulrush. All right. But it's going slightly to that side of it. Then you're just going to go back. You can break off your tape as you need to. You see, and then obviously this is going to hold everything in place. All right. So tape nice and tightly, but just go round and round on the spot. And then we're going to move on to the next stage. So we're going to cut 6 centimeters off Chinese lantern, which we've already have done. This is going to sit to the left. Now, when I made this, it's curving to the left. So in your images, you have that's curving to the left. And then you're going to, so that will be level, the bottom there. And we'll open this out a little bit once we get it sort of in the container. But that is going to go on the strong wire, so that will go to the left. Now remember, it's all about balance, because obviously if we'd put, say, the orange berries to this side, then you'd have too much orange at one side. It's all about balance. You know, just sometimes in a, you know, doing the interior of a room, it's sort of a balance of accent pieces and things like that. Now, of course, when we tape the whole way down, that's going to make things more stable. They will be a little bit moved around a little bit, but as I said, once we get this all done, they will hold their space. And then we're going to do the cosmos will go to the right. So again, the cosmos is going to go in here to the right. Of course, you'll be able to move things in a little while. So again, you have your, so you see you've got your cosmos and your Chinese lantern, and then obviously the honesty at the back here. All right. And then we're going to put the, next thing I'm going to do is going to be put the dahlia. Now that dahlia is going to go front center. All right. So pretty much, you know, this is straight as we made it. And remember, that was on a shorter wire. All right. So that is going to be, that will just go in the center here. All right. And then you'll just, so that's pretty much, as I said, straight, you know, that's just going to sort of sit in the front here. And then you can go around. All right. So you can see that's the next part of this. All right. And I'm going to now go and take an image of this. So you'll have that next stage, and then we'll put the final 2 components in, which are the rose hip and the horse chestnut. So now we're going to move on to the last 2 components. So number 11, we cut off already 12 centimeters off the rose hip. That is going to go to the left. It's got a fairly strong wire on it, because obviously we did 320 gauge wires here. So that's going to go. And at the intersection where it all joins, you're going to need to just use your pair of pliers and just bend that out just a little bit. So you see how I've almost got to bend it as an angle, because that's going to come out from the arrangement. Then we're going to go back in. Just going to tape this in position, because you just have a very nice natural, like if you went into your garden and you pick these sort of flowers, or in the woods, some of them would be growing in the woods and things. Obviously there would be, but you see the rose hip is going to go here. And then the final part, the horse chestnut buckeye. Now that is going to see be bent almost at a right angle where the wire is, so that will go into there. So you can just put that sort of in about the same point. Remember, this one is not going to go down to the bottom. All the wires are basically in the same vicinity. This is going to go to about level with the piece here. Now remember, that is on quite a strong wire. All right, so you're going to just now until you can get a little further down with your tape, it's going to be quite moving around. So be careful of your spikes on the piece, on the little seed pod. All right. And then you're going to just sort of start to tape, because you see, as you start to tape now, when you get that tape down, it's going to obviously secure everything in place. All right. So I've based everything on the videos, the obviously images, obviously where we've used the wires, the full length wires and things. Get in there. And then we will just tape down to the bottom here. And then what I'm going to do is on the base here, I'm just going to wrap the floral tape, which I've shown before, so we don't have sharp wires. So you're going to wrap the floral tape around like that, and you fold it, then you tape back on yourself, so you don't have exposed wires in here. All right. So you see how this is going to have your arrangement. So we've done this sort of an informal triangle shape. All right. And then you're going to have, obviously you might need to help somebody do this, because obviously the wire is pretty strong, but you're just going to sort of bend the horse chestnut down. So you see that sort of cascades out. So you sort of have that sort of cascade each side here. All right. And then you can open that out. And your dahlia, you can just, if you go underneath with your finger, so you could go behind the dahlia stem, you can just bend that a little bit forward. So that will give you your shape of everything together. So you see that's sort of how your flowers will sit together. Now, what we're going to do is going to put this into the container. All right, so we're going to put this into the container. And so we've got the sort of arrangement here, because this has a sort of a nice organic feel to it here. So this is going to go into the arrangement, but I'm just going to take one final photograph like this. So you have this without the container, so it's a little bit easier to see placement. And then when I come back, I'm going to show you putting it in the container. So as you can see, there's lots of different options here. This is just a cream vase filled with obviously rice. So you can put that. So you see, you could put that in something like that in a container. Now, because I've got this as a very natural arrangement, I'm just going to leave it sort of organic looking like this. But of course, you could also, like we've done before, like when we did the arrangement last year, you could add, for example, some bows at the back there. But I like the sort of the natural, the look of it. But as I said, that's really up to you. And sometimes with gift giving and things like that, that might be something you want to add to that. But I'm going to put this in the, as I said, you can see that I've got the arrangement. So I've got my, made the hole in there. All right. So what we can do there is you can just put a little bit of some lentils in there, just a few lentils to start off with. That helps to give weight. And then you're going to take so I'm going to use my pair of pliers, and then I'm going to just put this into, so this is going to go down. You can just push this down until now remember the dahlia leaf is going to sort of sit on the front of the container. So you see that they'll sort of, the arrangement will sit in here. And then I'm going to just fill that up. Use my fingers, just going to fill that up with some more lentils. Remember, we've discussed this before as well. You could actually even, if you were doing it in especially air drying clay, you could take the resin, the clear resin, mix that up and pour that on top of the lentils. So what that will do is actually sort of, and you can even take glue as well. If you take your PVA glue and just take like, about half a cup of PVA glue, add some water to it, and you just pour that on the top of the lentils. What it will actually do is it will set them so that if you move it, it's not going to, and they won't get dusty and things, and you can just move that, move the pieces here. All right, and then you can just obviously just arrange things. You can move things and obviously just play around with those a little bit to get sort of the shape correct. I'm going to put the cosmos up there a little bit, and I have my orange berries just going to come out just a little bit. All right, so you just sort of play around, so you just sort of so everything sort of works. So a little bit different than obviously the arrangement we did last year, which was arranged into the pot. This is a sort of like a hand-tied spray, but you can see the nice natural feel of the piece. All right, and as I said, you've got the nice elements there. And as I said, your conker is going to come down, and you can just sort of bring things in there. But this just is based on everything that we've made, on obviously the wire lengths and things like that. And you can see the dahlia sort of looks really nice in there. All right, so here you have your finished Colors of Autumn arrangement. So I hope you've enjoyed this Colors of Autumn project for September and October, putting it side by side what we did obviously last year. You can see you have obviously sort of a lot of beautiful autumn fall flowers, but remember many of these things we've made, the dahlias, the cosmos, different other things, the rose hips, I mean all of those types of things we made. The autumn roses, toadstools, mushrooms, those can all be done at other times of year as well, the hypericum. I just wanted to show those side by side so you can see a little bit of obviously 2020, 2021. And so I hope you've enjoyed this. Until next time when we'll be starting on Christmas, sweet wishes, bye.